All right, welcome everybody. We're gonna get started. Today is Tuesday, March 25th. So welcome. We're gonna kick off the meeting, I guess with a quick attendance.
Okay. Michael Anderson. Here. Eric Talbot.
Here.
Holly Thurston. Here. Bill Maria.
Here.
Angelica Kanganis.
Here.
Richard Klein.
Here.
And Chair Roy.
Here, very good. So I think we are missing member Carla Elia and alternate Pamela Nelson is not currently here either. So for the moment, the alternate Richard Klein will be, for today's meeting, alternate Richard Klein will be eligible to vote in lieu of Carla Elia. Okay, so with that, we're going to start with just approval of the last set of minutes. That was from our February 25th meeting. So I think we had everybody who is here was here yesterday, last month. So can I have a motion from the board for approval of the minutes?
I'll make a motion, Eric Talbot.
I'll second it.
All right,
Michael
and
Aronson, sorry, James.
are there any objections to that from this room? I don't see any. All right, so those minutes are approved. Okay, so we're going to go right ahead to new business of the board. First up on the agenda tonight is 142 South Highland Avenue. And this is the Popeyes restaurant, and they're seeking an extension of the site plan approval. So I don't know if we have the applicant here and they can just,
Yep, Mr. Davis is on his way over.
all right.
And Mason is here as well.
Awesome. All right.
I'm Clifford Davis regarding the Popeyes restaurant at 142, 144 South Highland Avenue. Last year, almost to the date, we got site plan approval for the project. We had previously gotten variances for the signs and a driveway variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals. We got a little delayed with the Department of Transportation. That has been worked out, but we would like a 1-year extension on the approval from last April.
All right, so at this point, nothing about the project has changed.
The only thing on the project that is anything, I would consider it ministerial. The DOT required us to remove some painted stop bars and signs on the entrance, which is closer to Ackerman. And we had to replace a do not enter signage with a one-way sign. And that was on the revised plans, which was submitted by Mason, I don't know, within the last month.
Yeah, and those were signed and
Yeah.
Seth, we coordinated on that.
Those were, I think, yeah, in the ministerial was how we saw that as well. But otherwise, the project itself is the same project.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
And just kind of when do you anticipate pulling a building permit on this?
I don't know. Hopefully, it should be within the next few months.
Board members, questions? Nope, everyone's shaking their head no. All right, this is an extension, so there's no public hearing component. Can I have a motion to approve the 1-year extension request?
Motion to approve, Rich Klein. Second, Phil Moran, second.
And a roll call.
Okay. Michael Aronson.
Aye.
Eric Talbot.
Aye.
Holly Thurston.
Aye.
Bill Maria.
Aye.
Angelica Kanganis.
Aye.
Richard Klein.
Aye.
And Chair Roy.
Hi, very good. Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Hopefully, we won't need another extension. Okay, good night.
Aye.
Bye-bye.
All right, next up on new business is a BAR. This is for 41 Linden Avenue, and this is a request for approval for the construction of a rooftop deck and roof cover structure. So get the applicant here, it looks like. Maybe you can introduce yourself, and we will pull the drawings up and you can kind of walk us through the project.
Gabriel Salmon, and we have about 100-year-old structure. My client purchased it about a year ago, and the entire top of the building is severely damaged by water. I don't know if you went to the site, it's covered by tarp. Because we're trying to get to, restore it. And what we're doing, basically, we are going to restore the roof as is with the columns as they are. But we're gonna put the windows there because the problem is with the building that it has no windows, as you get the rain coming, and it just goes right into the porch area, and then obviously the building was not well protected, and the entire floor down below, it's rotten. So, well, the building is white aluminum. That's what we're gonna do up on the roof, and we're doing the standard roofing shingle.
So the siding is white aluminum to match what's on the rest of the house? And these, are the windows?
These
Window
are the
package?
windows, yeah, they will be white.
And then, Maddie, maybe we can just look at the photos of the
Yeah.
house, probably,
I think we just have the one.
yeah. All right. Yeah, I mean, I'll open this up to the board to ask questions.
Yes, I mean, I think I understand that area right now where there's the open porch is going to be enclosed with
Correct.
windows.
Yes,
Okay.
it's not gonna be habitable area, it's just going to be enclosed porch, because they don't wanna get any more water in there.
But will the tenant or the occupant on that level have access to that?
Yes,
Yeah.
there is a door, in the right side of the building, you could see it, and it's one of the bedrooms has access to the porch. Rest of them have just windows.
And in terms of the roofing of that addition, the existing roofing stays and then you will just.
No, it won't stay because it's, you see everything is sagging, there is some structural issues everywhere, so we're gonna have to rebuild the roof as it is.
Okay, thank you.
And are you rebuilding that structure, the porch roof structure entirely? So
Yes.
those columns and everything is
Yes.
gonna be fully ripped out?
Yes. Because there is, that bay window under, that's all rotten. And I think the columns sunk in and the roof is caving in.
But you're not proposing any changes to that,
No.
that bay window?
No.
The only change that you're proposing, to be clear, is the porch structure on the roof?
Yeah, just the porch goes straight, and so instead of having a rail, it's going to be a solid wall with a siding on it.
And the roof and that little hip roof underneath it?
Right.
Is there a new gutter and downspout that will be there?
We will have to have a new gutter
And where will that downspout run?
just down the side of the building. And we'll have to have it on both sides.
That's one on each side of that long elevation.
Right.
And just that vertical material, above the windows on the kind of the triangle on the two side elevations. What is that material?
That's all aluminum.
The vertical aluminum?
Yeah.
Right, any other questions from the board? I was gonna say, this is the rear yard, right? From where is this visible?
Just from the back, and it's a really, high elevation.
Is it a neighbor? I'm just trying to get the context there, who's.
It's a garage and parking spaces. I don't think there is a neighbor really, to the building is very.
But the houses are side by side, they're very close together, but.
Right, about, the one next to it, doesn't have parking area.
Right, but I guess is that Tompkins down there, that's on the downside
It's
of that?
Clinton, right? It's right when
Yeah,
you're
it's
coming up
Clinton,
Clinton, you
yeah.
can see it right there.
Yeah, you could
Yeah.
enter the parking, area from Clinton. And if you could look at it, it's a very high.
So,
Gotta go.
Yeah, see that garage? That's the
Oh,
garage.
It's this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's the parking, so they can
Right.
enter back in here.
right.
Well, they enter
Oh,
from
no, I
Linden,
see,
right?
from
From
Linden.
Linden, this is
Yeah.
visible from Clinton there.
Well, from, there you just have a main entrance, parking is from Clinton, and also there is apartment on a ground floor, which is basement from Linden, but it's here as a ground floor that you access from them.
So it's like an L-shaped lot around the, or is that an easement? It doesn't really matter.
I think
for
it's
the
L-shaped
architecture.
lot, I didn't see any easements, I mean, all the parking is for this particular building.
All right, I mean, that's not relevant to the architectural review, so we'll move on. Any other questions about the architectural review here? This is helpful just to see the visibility.
Yes, I was just wondering, do we want to see the gutters and downspouts on the final drawings? I mean, we don't need to see them, but they should be
Well,
on.
there's a gutter on the bottom, but we're gonna put it on the top.
Yeah, but I agree. I think having that as a condition, that there will be,
Is that what's around the bay window at the top there? Is it the-
Yes, yes.
is there a gutter up there? It's
Goes
hard to
all
see.
around, yes.
Um, right. But there would be another one up at the at the main
Right,
roof.
right.
Yeah, Yeah. okay. And that, I do, that right now, that vertical, that's what, the reason I was asking about that vertical piece on your drawing is because I remember in the photo there, you can actually see it here too. That's just that's just a railing. So this is all getting ripped out. You're just putting back something that looks a little bit like that. Is that?
Yes,
All right, I don't have any other questions. There's a motion for a public hearing.
Michael Aronson, motion to open a public hearing.
second.
Any objections? There are none. We're now in a public hearing. Is there anybody here from the public to speak on this application? I don't see any. Is there anybody on Zoom who would like to speak to this application? You can use a hand raise function. I don't see anybody. All right, I think we just discussed the one condition just relative to gutters being shown on the final set of drawings. Have a motion to close the public hearing.
There's a motion to close the hearing.
Already a second.
Any objections to that? Don't see any. Public hearing is closed. So I think, just ask staff, really, are there any questions that we should have asked that we didn't?
No.
Okay. And we have a motion to approve the application.
Motion to approve, Rich Klein.
Michael Aronson, second.
I'll say with the conditions that we.
Yeah, with the gutter.
And then we have a roll call.
Ken, Michael Aronson,
Aye.
Eric Talbot,
Aye.
Holly Thurston. Aye. Bill Maria,
Aye.
Angelica Kanganis.
Aye.
Richard Klein
Aye.
and Chair Roy.
Aye.
Sorry.
The motion carries. Okay, so we are now, thank you very much. So obviously,
One more. Are we doing three more votes?
No, we're not doing for that.
Okay, so that's coming to the next one.
Yeah.
yeah, and just, just a reminder that the applicant, you still need to wait for the building permit after the, Joe will process a building permit after he finalizes his review. This is only one component of it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Okay, so next up on the agenda is a BAR for 7 Denny Street. And this was I think we looked at this a couple meetings ago, the removal of a 2-tier deck and a new roof structure over the first floor entrance. I think it's actually slightly different from that right now, but we have the applicant here for 7 Denny. In the room on Zoom. I have nobody in the attendee list. Nope. We do not. Okay, so I will move 7 Denny to the end of the agenda. I will make a note for myself at the end of my agenda that we'll come back to that. And then we will continue with the next item, 5 Sherman Place. And this is for BAR approval for a new single family house. We'll look at the first meeting. And so we'll wrap it up. Welcome back.
Good afternoon, members of the board. My name is Roman. I'm here in representation of Sherman Place owner. And I'm coming back to see if we can look at the materials and the change on the glass.
Okay, so let's get the drawings up on the board. I know there have been a few changes since the last time we saw you. Let's kind of look at them and talk about them. Yeah, I think focusing on that drawing is probably the better representation of some of the changes that have been made. So last time we looked at this, I know we were talking about breaking up the facade a little bit, and I think that this, at least this 2D elevation drawing shows that. There's a different material, a different texture and material in the center, and I think you also got rid of a roof line that used to continue all the way across the house. Can you talk a little bit materially about what you're planning, colors, and
Yes. Well, on the side we have the party plan. We have here the sample with the color with the thick that is light and.
right, and that's
It's for the regular
Oh,
siding.
no, I wanted people to be able to see.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so the regular siding will be this color, like this.
Yeah.
Party plank, 2 inches. So that's on the front and the back is all siding. And then for the middle section. The windows is.
Can we look at those next to each other?
Okay. Not the color, right? That's not the color.
Oh, okay. Oh, got it.
You will see it in the render.
Well, do you have the color on the,
Yeah.
there's a color chart next to your
Yes,
tile.
yeah, this is the right color.
So that's the color of the center portion?
Yeah.
So it's not stonework, it looks somewhat like stonework on the elevations.
But I think,
There is a
yeah.
stone on the, the foundation. that is
No, but I
exposed.
mean on that centerpiece that you're showing, that's just sort of dark
no, that's
burgundy on the
shingles.
drawings, that, unless I'm the only one who thinks it looks like stone.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I was just, the color. I'm happy to hear board opinions on this.
I was shocked. It was too dark for me. I think it just overpowers the whole facade.
I had a question just regardless of the center color. On the right elevation, it shows that matches what's in the front of the center, but then on the plans, it didn't seem to show that. So I was just wondering, will the right side be more along the lines of the remainder of the building, or will it be more like the red proposed in the center?
No, the sides and the back are all siding. The full building was all siding from the beginning, right? So we're just replacing the centerpiece.
It's
With
just
the
the front,
shingles,
yeah,
yeah.
the front would be the only part that would be a different
Mhm.
color, the side would be, okay.
But Angelica, I had the same question as you. Can we go to just, I think there's a rendering, like a 3/4 view, which maybe, I was trying to stay away from the renderings a little bit, but, no, keep going, no, keep going. Keep going, there. So that image shows, I think this is Angelica, what you're talking about,
Yeah,
right? That, you
that's
see
my
that,
part.
at the top, above the garage.
Oh, the
elevation
return,
roof?
yeah.
Yeah, see how is that your design intent, or do you plan to have?
No, that's the intention to keep siding because we're talking about something only the front, right? But I mean, the owner doesn't have any issue changing that piece because on the other side, you don't have anything. That's actually the wall is straight on the front. The only return with the difference will be that one.
Right, it just looks a little funny that it's like, you're changing the material there to kind of break up the facade, but you're only putting it on that one volume, and where it turns the corner, it makes it, you lose the illusion of it.
Yeah, that can be changed. There's no discussion.
And what is that material? Oh, it's.
Yeah, it's just the
Wait,
color is not
I'm
in the
confused
catalog.
about what we're talking about, I'm sorry, you're talking about the lower half of?
No,
Oh, no,
that's
that
red.
that return on the right side.
Oh, on the
It's
return of that.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I see. Okay.
Is it kind of,
Oh, yeah, that's.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
thank you. Thanks, Maddie. I got it. And I agree with Bill. I mean, the color is a little, I don't know. It's maybe a little overpowering for the building. But that's another piece.
I was kind of surprised they didn't match the garage blue and the color. That kind of seems like that would create the same effect without having too many things.
The overlay of the
This is
But
what do you mean,
we're
this-
talking about something more like this
Yeah.
for that X section.
Like kind of
match
what you
the-
have on the garage door. That way there's a little more like cohesion, like it.
We can work on that. I would go with a darker shade of the blue that looks like you have the rest of the siding. Because that's a little too extreme. It's a different shade, a different color altogether, not to mention how dark it is. Just the darker shade of that lighter blue would do the trick and wrap it around in the side.
Sure, right, that's why I'm showing here, so this is the current, so what is it? This is the current siding. And this is the image, so it looks darker on the picture, right, but
Yes, it does. Well, what
It's
I'm
not
talking
that
about
much.
is maybe something like this or a little further off of that.
yeah, the owner is open to change the color on that section, we just pick the.
No, I
so
meant,
we go
so
away from the blue, right?
those look more gray than blue though, so Phil, which one were you suggesting
Well,
for those
On
center?
on there, it looks blue, so a darker gray, if that actually
I
is
see.
gray.
It does look blue.
I think it's jarring. I think I appreciate that this is the direction that we are trying to get you to go to break up the facade. And I think from that degree, it's good. I think that the colors are off. I think that the material around the corner is a little off. We want to, I think, continuing that. I just want to go back to the elevation drawing one more time, because I think, again, this may just be a question of the rendering versus or maybe not. Just I guess it's just the way that the roof, the eaves return on this drawing are a little bit more elegantly detailed, that it's just not reading in the rendering with that. So I think I had a question that I don't have.
You did on the side elevations, I think you were concerned the stone didn't wrap around.
That was right, and that's what we were just talking about. We can go to this is, I think, Angelica's comment a moment ago as well. Actually, that's
So
on that one, you are showing the material
Yeah,
changing.
that's why I was wondering.
Yeah,
Okay, so it's the rendering that is on the mistake right now.
and then if we look at the left side elevation, right, that's part of the longer volume, so that wouldn't be. Okay,
And it will have a noticeably different texture to it, not just the color, different texture.
Yeah, that's, this is the actual siding, and this is the change, so different. At least, yeah. Sorry.
it'd be like a linear siding on most of the house with this kind of shake on the center volume.
Beth, I meant where the garage, the bottom basement, the stoneworks doesn't wrap around.
That's
I
what
Yeah,
I-
you
yeah,
had,
yeah,
you
yeah.
had questions
Yeah,
on
we did have
that.
questions about that as well.
So the stonework on the very lower level side elevations does not carry from the front, and is there a reason why, or?
Yeah, I think it's, if you can go to the render, they send, the detail on that wall, I think is, just there. You see, that's just patching like stucco.
Yeah, and is there a reason why you couldn't carry? Why you couldn't carry the stonework, and I'm actually curious about what the stonework is, like, is it?
That's veneer stone.
Veneer, it's a
Yeah.
veneer, okay, but you don't have a sample of what that's.
Not right now, because it's, the color, he picked the color, but we haven't picked exactly the manufacturer.
Is it a fieldstone?
No, it's something like Heritage, I don't remember the name, but it's, no, it's not Fieldstone.
Could it be applied to everything that's visible from the street? That the
It
house
can
is
be applied
uniform?
to everything, yeah. I can recommend, but, his choice is just to show in the front. That is like a stone basement. But just in the front, but we can go around, yeah, change on the cost of material, but not on the design itself.
And actually stick with this, yeah, stick with that image right now, because we were talking about the stonework at the bottom of the building. I think the other question that's come up every time we've looked at this is, if you look where the car is parked on the, left side of the drawing, the hill kind of has there's a buildup. We've talked about this, that you're gonna be, I think using fill from the excavation to create this mound in front of the house. But how is that mound terminating? And are you planning a wall? Where's the lot line relative to that? How is that grade gonna be? Because if there is another wall that's built there, how does that wall relate to the house? That would be part of our BAR review. So, how is that side of the property gonna be treated?
I think if you go to the next page, and I'm not 100% sure, keep going. Okay, you see that one? That's the house that's already there. Okay, so they already put the dirt back into place.
Mm.
So you can actually grade it into before going out from the property. The fence is still there, and the ground has been taken down with the soil on it already.
With that, I mean, that image makes it look like there's almost a cliff on the side of your
Yeah,
property.
yeah, but that's because of how I reflect the height on the plan, but the actual soil is going back to be more smooth into the pond. It's not gonna be so,
More
It's not gonna be a hill.
gently sloping
Yeah.
than that?
yeah, because the building on the building that is there already, it has it, it's on the same height. You don't see it because it's actually going smoother than that, the software don't allow us to go
I
that
don't think,
way.
I don't think that building.
It's right there, you see below the window, there's the dirt.
Right, but it still looks like you're building up.
And there's a lot of stonework under those windows. Did they do all that stone veneer and they're just gonna bury it?
No, I think it's just there. I was there, I took the picture myself.
That's right now?
Yeah.
But right now it looks very low, I guess is what I'm saying. Doesn't look like it's been refilled with anything.
No, I think that's what I was gonna say. That's what it is now. Yeah, nothing has
I
been
mean,
refilled.
it made the render being bigger than it's supposed to be. That's maybe a good point because we're just placing on top of the picture, right? But the idea for the slope, for the dirt coming back should be the same as the house and the next door.
And again, so there's two reasons, I guess, why we're talking about this in this board. Number one is, I mean, if there is some sort of architectural wall that needs to be designed and built, that would be reviewed. But the other part is we're still just trying to come to terms with the scale of the house. And, the higher up on it, this art, kind of hill that's being built here, the bigger the house is gonna feel. So I think, these tools that you're giving, these renderings, they matter in terms of how we kind of interpret and understand the size of the house. And I think still, if it's just a matter of it's being rendered too high, then render it or draw it accurately. If you have if you cut a section through the front yard and say, well, this is where our front yard is, this is where their front yard is, and it's really just a 6% grade between the two of them, that would be different from that, which is probably like a 50% grade. And that is based on a photo of it sounds like what you're saying, how
Yeah.
it currently exists, and that's concerning.
Yeah, I can try to fix how is it looking right now with.
Are you
the
doing the
block,
rendering?
because that's not rendering thing.
Are you doing these or your architect?
I'm going through that software. Yes,
Okay, so
I
you're,
know the architect. Architect is the guy who's taking care of plans.
Can we
He's
go,
the person.
so it sounds like two separate people are doing the,
Which makes sense based on what we're seeing, because there's a
Right.
lot of differences between the two drawings. There's some, yeah, Polly.
Well, is it supposed to be consistent with the house next door? Is that, because that's throwing me off. I feel like we're lifting it up, but yet they, should they kind of look? Like the planes, the windows, the first floor, the second floor. I think that's what's messing with my understanding of this, because it feels like you're propping it up, but maybe it's actually, when it's built, it's gonna be lower.
It will be lower
You think
because
so?
you see the driveway is going up.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be going up, should be straight. But the
Okay.
problem is that the software is the issue.
So today you brought in materials, which was incredibly helpful, right? We're able to look at them and kind of make sense of the textures, make sense of the colors, and I think kind of lead you to what I hope will be a kind of a resolved design. What I would ask is that with these with these two, with the juxtaposition, the comparison of these two houses, the architect could draw a scale drawing that says, this is the relative heights of the roofs, this is the relative heights of the front yards. I think that would go a long way in terms of relieving this concern that we have right now, it just looks like this thing is being, built up on this, plopped on this hill, 10 feet above the neighbor's house.
Because if you also look at the renderings and see the steps that are shown on one of the drawings, there's quite a number of steps to get up to the front door. And I was curious as to, again, the height, but also the materials that you were using for the steps.
And actually, Matt, if you go back to that other drawings, it's almost like that you've already done this. I don't know, so if you look at these, the side by side there, like where, is that following the line of the street?
That's the original.
And it's making it look like there's this like river valley running between the two houses. Which is problematic. I would like to see kind of how the two grades relate to each other in reality, or how they would. And I don't know if Joe would have some thoughts, Joe, just regarding, grading up against that lot line, and how, if there would be any issues with either of the properties.
I don't think that the way it's being represented is correct, because when you look at the house that's under construction now and you compare it to the way this is on this elevation plan, this would show that the grades on both properties in the front would be kind of equal in the same height, and the building is the same height, but on the elevation that he showed in color of the building, this does, I mean, if you look at the soil in the front, it's well built up over what's right there on that picture. They're not consistent between each other. There'd be no way that the soil for the front yard like that would end up being at that grade level. And that was the reason why, if on that section of the building, on both of these two buildings, that they only went the number of stories they did on those two sections on the side, because if you look at the house that's on the construction, if they had put that right corner or that right section another story higher, it would be 3 full stories. That's why they kind of stepped it down, so that it wouldn't exceed over that number of stories when you go from the grade point.
So we just need. I mean, I don't know.
I don't think that this is a proper representation of the finished product.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think but we do need a drawing that shows, effectively kind of, again, let's go back just to those two side by side, like a resolved version of that drawing that shows how, in scale, how they're relating to each other, and how that kind of space at the lot line is resolved, if there's some sort of a buildup, at least to the degree that on your side of the lot line, meeting up with what's currently there. I think that'll make the house, read very differently from the street. Do you understand the request there? I know it's.
I understand what you mean, but what I'm trying to figure out is if you want to have only a drawing showing both houses side by side, or you want a picture with a drawing of the.
I think a drawing, a scale drawing would be the best way. I think that a rendering is going to be, rendering is not an architectural drawing, and it's not, I don't think it's sufficiently precise for what we're asking.
So technically that detail, but better explained. Like
More. Yeah, I wouldn't say that drawing, because that drawing shows like literally it looks like there's a ravine between the two houses, and I don't think that that's real. And I think that's what we're trying to understand is how your house relates to the ground.
Okay. Yeah, for that I can follow the architect.
Yeah.
Not only to the ground, to each other.
Yeah, they're supposed to be
They're supposed to be
high.
that height.
Yeah.
both of them.
Yeah.
Well, that's not what you see in the rendering. That's what's showing in the.
Yes, because only, even the drawing of the other house next door, you see they have the land going up all the way up to the stairs. You don't see the stairs, but in the picture, the stairs are showing up. That means they still have to put some dirt on it, right? So when they go back and do it, then maybe my render is gonna match more of it. But again, it shows like both houses are not meeting at any point, and that need to be fixed. So yeah, like that one, yeah. The stairs are showing. Not supposed to be.
Do you know for sure that they're gonna be filling that?
I'm gonna say yes. I haven't been there for some time, but I know they're supposed to do it.
And so it's different owners, so it's
Yeah.
hard for us
Yeah.
to.
Yeah.
But would that make a difference of how much they fill on their side? If,
Yeah, but I think, I don't know, I mean, those steps, I don't know how much they're gonna be able to, I mean, the lot lines are really short. So, I mean, Joe will have to deal with that, but at some point, they might have to put like, you know. It's too steep of a grade, you're gonna have to put like some sort of retaining or something to hold back, but.
Well, didn't they have to show what they were doing?
They did, and those, you know. I think that the hill or the mound was less pronounced and it was resolved in their drawing. But now these, you know, this set of drawings doesn't seem to. Reflect, I guess, what's going on its own site or next door. I mean, this image, you know, again, the roof heights on the line drawing, right, showed the roofs being almost level, and here it looks like we're big brother, little brother.
but in theory, what we're asking him to present to us is going to be in line with what was proposed for the house next to him.
Yeah,
Since
or-
that
yeah.
hasn't been completed yet, and so he has to kind of use what in theory would be done for his own comparison for us to look at.
Well, I guess that was my question before, is in terms of grading on, you know, up to the lot line, right? So you can't make it, they can't propose any intervention on their neighbor's property. So it kind of has to be resolved on their lot.
Yeah, but we don't have an issue with them having like a gradient up if assuming the neighbor doesn't.
Sorry.
Like, so in theory, again, this is in theory because I haven't seen the plans for the neighbor, but in theory, the neighbor would have filled the space similar to what he's kind of showing, although he's showing maybe because of the rendering, it's a more extreme version, but in theory, they would be filling some space there too. There would be more dirt. It wouldn't be flat the way it is right now.
Yeah, but I don't think there's gonna be, and my point is, I don't think there can't be much dirt. Because if not, I mean, there's really not much to the side yard, so it's only gonna be like,
I don't believe that they're gonna have much there. You can actually see the windows on their
Yeah.
foundation wall there. They would not be able to fill that much more dirt in there.
Maybe like.
So they may add some soil to the front just to level off the grade in the front, but it's not gonna be to the extent that you're seeing in this photo on the proposed house here.
We also lost the sidewalk here, so. Right. Like, I just feel like we don't have that much space to build a mound.
right.
There is a sidewalk on that side.
But there was.
There is on further, excuse me, further.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
there,
there is
you're right.
space.
on that side.
But,
So then we don't have it.
Stop.
It doesn't go all the way to
Stopped
the park.
work on it, but-
It kind of just abruptly ends.
Yeah.
Okay.
I feel like it does.
So
Maybe.
I guess, and Valerie, I don't know, like drawing wise, you know, do you have any thoughts in terms of a representation means that they could representation strategy for,
I mean, I would almost recommend that they have their architect, because I think I think right now, because they're not using the architect to draw this, I
Yeah.
think that would make a major difference.
an architect doing the rendering?
Yeah, the same architect that's actually did the plans.
Right. There is a sidewalk there.
Yeah.
A plan with elevation lines.
Though we are,
You
you
can see
know,
what the slope is doing.
I mean, part of the struggle here for us as a board is we're reviewing BAR, we're not reviewing the site plan, because it's, so I just want to make sure we're keeping those elements segregated.
But I think with the sidewalk piece though, they can't have the mound of dirt going on the side, because the sidewalk is ultimately going to have to remain if it's there, correct?
Right, I mean, maybe a grading plan with any proposed retaining walls that would impact how the. I'm trying to be specific in terms of what we're asking for, so we can, you know, rather than that's kind of what I was asking Valerie. I mean, a rendering is great. But even, you know, really, you know, kind of
I think he's going to have to, you're saying he's gonna have, the architect's gonna have to do this because they're gonna have to show what those grade planes are there, because I can't imagine that much soil is gonna end up being in the front like that. I mean, when you're comparing, it's not that much difference in elevation from the house that's currently on the construction to the lot that you're on, so they should kind of match in the same the way the grading in the front should not be one much higher than the other when it's all said and done. I don't think what it's being depicted in there is correct.
Right, and the thing is, if for some reason it really does require that much grading up, then maybe the height, that's the issue.
Right.
Overall height needs to be reduced based on what they're showing in terms of massing.
Well, that would be if your intent is to actually have that building higher than the neighboring property, because the one the one to the left of you there had the elevations put on there to make sure that it wasn't going to exceed the maximum height allowed. So, you know, if you're going to remain with the roof lines at the same heights, then you really should not have any difference in the grade plane along the property as the property next to you that's under construction should be.
So a revised rendering, at least from the street view, it doesn't have to be all exposures of the house, showing the grading to scale and the relation to the adjacent property. And I do think an elevational drawing showing the same relationship.
And are we doing something on that point between the two houses? Because like Gloria mentioned, maybe we would like to go straight to meet the other one, but maybe the neighbor never fill up.
I mean, I think the product, what you're showing is a valley or a canyon. I mean, it may be more just of a swale, just a low point, a subtle low point, but I don't think we know that right here. And I certainly know we can't be asking you to grade in cooperation with the neighbor. That's not the request. What we're asking for you is to kind of accurately represent what you're planning to do, which I don't think we've seen.
Okay.
That makes sense. And then you bring into the conversation, you bring into the next iteration of the elevations, the conversations that we had on material and color, which I think we made. I think we're in a much better place on after this conversation.
So you didn't, should I bring that stone sample next time?
Yes, please. I
Okay.
think that would be very helpful as well.
You mentioned the stair materials.
Yeah, it wasn't clear what the materials were gonna be
Yep.
using.
Well,
Thanks.
we have the section of the steps going up from the door, just to some point approved. And then the owner wanted to make just a gardening step down to the driveway. But you mentioned you need to see it, so we make a gardening detail on it.
The landscaping,
Yeah,
plan,
so-
but also the
so-
material of the steps themselves, they're yellow, so I wasn't quite
So
clear.
basically, pressure treated good, making steps fill up with gravel or
They're wood
or
steps.
stones.
No,
Not doable steps, just,
Like railroad ties?
yeah,
like a truck or
Yeah.
whatever.
yeah,
Oh,
just to hold the ladder in place. But he's talking about doing stone actually. And I say, well, if you plan to do stone, you have to let me know what it's gonna be, right? But
Yeah, it would be helpful.
we just
to do
include that now, because again, he's planning to do some kind of gardening, like some kind of landscaping.
Although we're not doing.
He's not doing concrete at all.
Yeah, the landscaping is,
Yeah.
you know, your client will determine that, but the stair material is part of the house and would be part of our review.
Yeah, I just had a question. So in terms of, how we typically do, reviews of BAR applications when we're looking at any sort of change or modification to the exterior of the building. Do we always ask for renderings or are they typically elevations that we look at, like good elevations? Because, you know,
I think the biggest issue is that it's the heights that you're really dealing with, because depending upon because the way the height is, and Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, but the way the height is defined, it's based on like the average finished grade. So if they're trying to create a building that, you know, they have like, they're having like a drive-in garage, and then they're gonna put like a couple stories above that, and they're trying to keep the height, they might end up having to fill up to a certain height, like the stairs. But the issue is that site is very tight. So then if they're grading up to that, then you might need, depending on how much they have to put in there and how much it drops off, you might have to end up including retaining walls and stuff.
right.
Or they're not gonna be able, they're gonna exceed the heights.
My understanding of the conversation was that was a visual, like, misperception in the rendering that I wasn't actually showing the slope. Now, looking at the other property, they have a very high staircase because the entrance is at the second floor. So I know that other property has stormwater treatment, that our stormwater mitigation on site there because they had to do that work. So I was just trying to understand, is that really a sloped area, or are we just viewing like the elevations? You know, are we not gonna be able to do this through a rendering if we haven't been able to be able to clearly see it at this point? Our elevations with, how I was trying to think of how JD showed one of the other projects, I forget, maybe it was on Marble Place too, but there was a part where the building went into the side of the hill, and it looked as if the building wasn't drawn, but it was just like showing the grade of where the building was. It was a simple drawing, but you could still, it was illustrative, wasn't new, but okay. I was just trying to understand how we're looking at if a rendering was really gonna help
Yeah, so.
again, or is it an elevation with more like lines showing grade, if that was gonna be the better way for us?
And to your point, I don't think it's out of the question to ask if he's working with his architect on this to do some sort of topography and give us a topo of what the finished grade is going to look like as part of, as well as doing the elevations, because it will allow us to be able to see if in reality you're going to have grade planes that are going to be showing, where the house is raised up as you're seeing it in that. But if he does a topography of it and shows that those grade planes are not as steep as that, then you'll obviously know that it's going to be a lot lower, and what you're seeing in the elevation plan or in the colored elevation kind of is accurate. Because right now, if I'm looking at that right now, I would say those grade planes of what you're doing on there are pretty drastic.
Right.
And I don't believe that they really, that's the correct, I don't think that's correct the way it's going to be on a finished grade there. That's a pretty steep slope. And, also consider there's a lot of implications to what you're doing there that would create stormwater nuisances towards the neighbors and to the sidewalk there because it's a steep slope. And although you'll have stormwater mitigation on the property, that's going to collect water probably from the gutters off the roof and so forth, but that will not prevent water that, heavy rainstorm with the water just hitting the surface of the ground with that kind of slope that way. You would be sending quite a bit of stormwater to your neighbor if what we're looking at there is accurate, which I can't imagine it is.
Well, and that's the thing, because if you actually look at the elevation, that window, the basement windows and that garage, they're showing a height of like 8 feet. So depending upon how much, so that's where it becomes important to figure out how much, like what your current elevation is and how much fill is gonna have to go up to get those 8 feet. Because if not, that middle portion of the building will probably exceed your permitted height.
Yeah, and to that point, Valerie, maybe what you're looking at is in the center of the building, there is some type of slope, but it may not be more than a couple of feet as opposed to what that appeared in that. When I'm looking at that, what was, was portrayed there, it seemed to be like you were looking at like almost an 8 to 10 foot grade.
Exactly, and that's what we need to find out.
Right.
Let me ask you one question. Is that garage level with the street?
With sidewalk.
So you can drive from the street level, you can drive pretty much level into the garage.
Mhm. It's
That's,
fine.
that's what's wrong with the rendering, because it looks like you go uphill
Mhm.
to get to the garage.
So,
Yeah, some perspective, like a perspective issue with the render.
so,
That looks higher, the house looks higher.
I mean, Joe had mentioned, some sort of a topo, I think, I'd mentioned a grading plan, a topo plan, a very clear plan of the site that indicates these levels and how they're resolved both up against the house and at the sidewalk and at the property line. I think we need to see that to understand that. And I think in conjunction with that, because I mean, one of my problems is the whole reason we asked for a rendering was to understand the scale of and I think, Eric, this was kind of maybe a little bit towards your question a second ago too, is, we don't ask for renderings in every BAR, but certainly when there's a new house and we're trying to understand the scale and how it fits in with the neighborhood, it's a very common request. And so we have this rendering that we can't use because it's not accurate. It doesn't represent the scale of the house, the relationship of the house to the community, to the neighborhood, which is literally the purpose of us asking. So I think having, having that rendering provided, by the architect who provided the same drawings, that shows the same, types of details and returns on the house that would then allow us to better understand how it will read and kind of finalize an evaluation of it. Both in terms of the hill, but just in terms of the design as well. In conjunction with that plan. Does that make sense to the board?
Yes.
All right, so I'm gonna actually, so this is we spent a lot of time on this. We haven't opened the public hearing, so can we move there? Can I have a motion to open the public hearing?
Bill Moran, motion to open a public hearing.
Angelica, can you in a second?
Are any objections? There are none. Is there anybody here to speak to this application? I don't see anybody here. Is there anybody on Zoom to speak to this application? You can use the hand raise function. And I do not see anybody there. Can I have a motion to
That's mine.
adjourn
Oh,
the
yeah.
public hearing? I've done that before too. Every meeting. A motion to adjourn the public hearing?
Michael Aronson, motion to adjourn the public hearing.
Thurston, second motion.
Any objections? All right, so the public hearing is adjourned. Do you have clarity? I really hope that we can kind of finalize this review the next time we see you.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask for the material of the stone, and we mentioned something about the stucco around the house. So I really recommend now that go around with the stone all the way around.
Mhm.
I'm gonna mention it,
Yes,
and we're looking for a grading plan
yes.
and some comparison or better rendering or better comparison with their neighbor house, at least right now.
Right, provided by the architect who's designing the house.
I need to figure out, think of what we're doing.
And also the color of the
And
The
this-
centerpiece
Right.
and the return on the side should be.
Yeah, there is this on the plan, but
Right.
it needs to be fixed on the.
But we'll
right
talk about it, but you'll review the color comments that came from.
Yeah, that's it. So, go to the old one, the red, going more into the blue.
Yes,
If I could pick up on it. Perfect.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, can I have a motion from the board to adjourn this agenda item?
Michael Aronson, motion to adjourn the item.
Richard Clark, second.
Any objections? There are none. All right, so we are, thank you. And
Thank you.
we'll see you next time. Have a good night. All right, moving on to 10 Marble Place. So this is a BAR, sorry, a planning board. And this is subdivision approval of subdividing a lot into two. And we have Voo Pb. So maybe we can introduce yourself and just let us know kind of what's the most up-to-date update on the application.
Well, with this application, we have gotten and received all the variances. And also, I think we resolved the issue with the planting on the right of way and the gazebo on the right of way. So I think that was the two remaining items.
The variances,
And we
meaning
submitted
you've
also-
gone to the zoning board and you've received the required variances.
Yeah,
And you're talking about the right of way, you're talking about having gone to the board of trustees because there were improvements in the public right of way. And what was the
the
resolution there?
outcome said that we're gonna leave them as is.
You're gonna leave everything as is?
Yes.
I thought there was a removal of one structure.
Yeah, I
No.
think the removal of the patio, yeah.
Well, because there's
Right.
the ornamental hedges, that was one,
Right,
and
those are
then
gonna
there was the
stay.
arbor.
Yeah.
The arbor,
I thought they're taking out the arbor.
I thought they
Yeah.
were taking out the arbor.
yeah, you're taking
We-
out the arbor.
Yeah, I thought they were taking that out as
We-
well.
We will take it, but I thought that that was not necessary, but that's something that,
Oh, it says the board has agreed with it. Oh, the arbor and slate patio that is within the right of way will be removed.
That's what
Okay,
I thought was
okay.
the.
Yeah, that's right.
this-
That was in the test, you know.
I thought I read it somewhere.
and also we provided a draft of the easement and a plot plan was submitted. There's no site plan work, there's no improvements,
Okay.
just the.
Tony, I know you're joining us.
Yep.
But, so I kind of give you an opportunity, any comments or thoughts on the changes since we last saw this?
Yeah, and on our end, pretty much everything's addressed. The only comment that's still outstanding, and it's a Village of Ossining code requirement, is to have the existing grades shown on the plat.
Great.
Yeah, the topography.
But that's it on our end. Everything else is addressed.
There's something
Yeah.
that we would need.
That could be,
Yeah.
yeah.
And Valerie, I know you had some comments. I think we've kind of touched on most of them, but
Yeah, I think the only one that we just wanted to confirm that, because originally at some iteration, there was this utility easement on site, but then it was removed from the plat, so I just want to make sure there's no utility easement.
No,
Okay.
all the easements are shown.
board members, questions on this? No, they're shaking their head no. We have a motion to reopen the public hearing.
Bill Maria, motion to reopen the public hearing.
Michael Aronson, second.
Any objections? There are none. We're now in public hearings. Anybody here from the public to speak to this application? Not see anybody in the room. Nobody using the hand raise function. So I don't see anybody. Before we close this out, just want to make sure, just from staff, procedurally, are there any boxes that we haven't checked off that we're going to need to?
Oh, this is the one where there's one thing that we need to talk about, whether this is going to be a preliminary plat or did you?
Right.
Nice to pass.
So I believe you can do a motion for preliminary and final plat approval on one step.
Okay. That makes
This is a major
sense.
subdivision.
Yeah, it's like a really small.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a small,
If it were larger, you'd have to do individual steps, but since it's a small.
okay. So just to be clear, so that will effectively, if we vote on this tonight, we'll be voting effectively on two steps at once, which would be the preliminary and the final plat. He's provided all the materials sufficient for the plat, correct? For the final
Yeah,
plat?
for both, yeah,
Yeah, so
exactly.
it's been provided. I think it's reasonable to have that vote. But can we first have a motion to close the public hearing on the application?
All right, so I'm gonna make the motion to close the public hearing.
Colin Thurston, second the motion.
Any objections? If none, that carries. The public hearing is closed. And I've already kind of asked my last question, so I think we're there at this one. Can we have a motion to approve the preliminary and final plat?
Richard Klein, motion to approve.
Michael Aronson, second.
And again, I would just note that these are with the conditions listed in the reports from Valerie and Tony. And with that, can we have a roll call?
Sure thing. Michael Aronson. Aye. Eric Talbot.
Aye.
Holly Thurston.
Aye.
Bill Maria.
Aye.
Angelica Panganis.
Aye.
Richard Klein.
Aye.
And Chair Roy.
Aye, very good. The motion carries.
All right.
Thank you very much,
Thank
JB.
you.
All right. Yeah,
7:30.
7 Denny. It did right on my notes. I wasn't gonna forget. So do we have? the
We have
applicant here?
someone who joined, Mr. Joseph, if you're on for seven Denny, can you raise your hand and I'll bring you over as a panelist, please? There we go.
Excellent.
Take care all.
Good night, Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
All right. All right, so Mr. Joseph, yeah, you can if you prefer that you turn your camera on and unmute yourself. Very good, thank you.
Yeah, okay, hi.
Hi, all right, so I know that we took a look at this project a couple of meetings ago or last meeting. So maybe you could just walk us through the changes that you've drawn, that you provided, and just introduce yourself and your role in the project.
Yeah. Sure, my name is George Joseph. I'm the architect and my dad owns the property. So at the last meeting that we had, I submitted the rendering. You'd asked for the rendering of the side elevation.
All right.
That's the
Elevation. There's the
That's
side.
Denny, and this is the side from Yale, yeah.
Can we talk about?
Primarily, what we're doing is.
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
we're not doing anything on this elevation other than what's dotted there. We're actually, there's an existing extension. And we're just gonna mimic whatever that railing is. We have an existing railing,
We have photos of that railing.
goes up to the two, just gonna copy those railings to that side. That's what it looks like now.
Okay. So that
And
stair,
I'm just proposing,
continue.
yeah, we're just gonna propose putting a railing on that extension that's there.
Okay. Can we go back to the elevation drawings? Let's go to the front. Okay.
That's a question I was asking. So originally, the plan was you were putting a roof over that first floor. And you were taking the doors out that led onto the two-tier deck.
I'm proposing on keeping that roof.
I'm just saying that there's gonna be a railing, but no actual access to that roof. Is that what you're proposing? Is that you're putting a guardrail there? Is that what you're planning on doing, putting a flat roof with a guardrail, but it's not actually accessible?
Yes,
So
yeah,
it's
there's
just
gonna
for-
be no
it's just
access
for
to
aesthetics,
that
in other
flat
words.
roof.
Okay, and yeah, I'm saying it's just for aesthetics.
It's
It's gonna be the
aesthetics.
rail
The
because
last
it's
time
not
we
real-
spoke-
no one's gonna be on there, correct?
Gonna be on there.
Okay, so to be clear, there's a railing that's being installed on a flat roof. Which is being modeled right now at the cursor. That railing, all right, so but that roof being reconstructed and how is that roof drained?
That roof will pitch into the roof that's over the storefront. It's the same elevation. So the rainwater from that proposed flat roof will pitch to the storefront and be caught there.
Is there an internal drain proposed?
Yeah, there's an existing internal drain on that roof, on that storefront.
So you don't need any gutters or downspouts or any other stormwater drainage that would affect the elevation of this? So
We're envisioning any gutters or anything like that on this facade.
So where will the stormwater off of the flat roof, where is that going to go? Because this building is right up against the public right of way. It's right on the sidewalk. So is it just water will
There's
shed
an
off of
existing
that roof?
roof drain on the store.
Is there a front version of
I'm
this
just gonna go to
photo?
Google Maps.
Yeah, because. Yeah, it just had showed up. Okay. So the upper level goes away, the door goes away on that kind of lowest railing tier. Which effectively, the new design will look a little bit like, kind of like you're leaving that lowest tier there. But all of the material will be new, correct? And matching the railing on the stairway that you were showing us a minute ago, correct? Mr. Joseph? Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Yeah, so are you saying that there's currently a drain on that?
The last part.
Like where you said near the storefront, there's a drain on that roof right now.
Yes, there is. If you were to move a little bit over this way, there's a On top of that roof, there's a drain there.
I mean, we wouldn't be able to see it if it's a roof drain. Is it like a? I'm confused and a little concerned about how this will be addressed if we. How can we see a roof drain if it's a flat roof drain from an image? And
There's an existing drain on top of that flat roof on the store, above that haircutting salon.
above the store? That's one thing, but the roof that you're showing us is actually lower than that, right? So how is
No,
that?
it's actually the same.
How is
Behind the
it-
terracotta, it's the same height.
Is that a parapet wall?
You can actually walk from this rooftop to the.
That's just.
Got it. So you've got a parapet wall, you've got a continuous roof surface.
But then is that pitched to go to the drain?
Yeah,
And is there a gravel stop or something else that would prevent the water from overflowing onto the sidewalk?
we're proposing a gravel stop so that the water will not come into the sidewalk.
Right, and
It's
that's
more or less like a big gutter system.
to be clear, what you're saying is that this narrow roof is behaving like a gutter. The roof itself and pitched towards the bigger roof.
That entire roof will behave like a gutter.
And is that, so now let's go back to the elevator. I understand this. Thank you. So we're going back to that drawing, that kind of fascia, that underneath the railing, right? So that's where you'll have your gravel stop and your roofing termination, and the water will pitch away. But the pitch of the roof, which you can't see in this drawing, the roof will be pitched, but the visual kind of line of the railing and the base of the railing will be level the way it's shown here.
Visual will be level, but the roof will be pitched.
And then one last question is just regarding the map, maybe looking at the side elevation would be helpful. Again, it's out of concern for the public right of way. It looks like the railing is like base mounted to the side of the building. If you look at this image, I don't see anything like if you look at the
You broke up.
drawing. I'm concerned that maybe the railings, the way they're drawing, are actually sticking to the sidewalk. Is that wrong?
Nothing will stick onto the sidewalk. It'll be flush against the existing elevation.
Okay, so the line of the railing will be flush with the line of the stucco. Okay.
Flush, if not flush, it'll be actually tucked into the, it won't protrude past the existing.
This shows flush. This drawing shows that at least at the post, the corner post is flush. Okay, sorry,
That's a staircase coming down from the second floor.
yeah.
They're not showing that in the front elevation. It's like it was dropped off when you look at it in the front elevation.
It's a good point.
That
But-
staircase actually was
Yeah.
redone not
I
too
should have shown
long
that, yeah,
ago.
sorry.
That was done not too long ago, and that actually is in the village's right of way. The owner had to sign a license agreement with the village for that staircase because it was the only access up to that upstairs apartment. It always was in the village's right of way, and they repaired it and they paid a fee to get a license agreement to build a new staircase there.
And it's currently existing, right? So it's not part of the application that we're reviewing.
And I don't know when this image, I guess, is because that staircase on the side is right now was redone like a couple of years ago, and it's a brand new staircase.
And that was the image I think we saw a minute ago, right, Maddie? You had that one in the packet.
Oh, yeah.
Right, so that's,
Yeah, there you go.
What is a gravel stop? I'm not familiar with that.
The gravel stop is just a little piece of sheet metal that kind of creates an edge on a roof so that the water doesn't spill out off of a flat roof.
Did work start already, or was that? the condition?
Now, what happened was originally, the plan was to just redo the wood decks as they were because a violation was issued for the condition of them. You could see in the original picture of it that it looked like it was not structurally sound. So they were supposed to take it down and just rebuild an exact same two-tier deck. But in the middle of the construction of this, they ran into a couple of other issues. Some were where they had to add some structural footings underneath. If to do this, they would have had to add some footings underneath, and those footings would have went underneath the sidewalk and into the village right away. There was a lot more that was going to be involved with that, with getting permission from the Board of Trustees and so forth to do work in that area. So, and I'm not sure, I don't want to speak for the owner. I think he had some issues, I believe, with the contractor, so they stopped the work as is. I think the contractor, if I'm correct, he did not obtain, he was supposed to go to the Department of Public Works to get a closure for the sidewalk there, and he never did. So they started doing this work, and there was no pedestrian protection while the work was going on, so it was stopped. And the owner decided that he did not want to continue to do this and decided to present what he's doing now. He wanted to not build a two-tier deck and just build a roof over the existing structure on the ground level and change the entire plan. Which is why then I sent it to the board to your board, because originally we normally don't do a BAR review on wood decks.
All right. Thanks, Joe. And that, I think that history is, again, helpful for us to be reminded of. And, I think, the new drawings, I think, are clearer. I mean, we didn't talk about material. I think there are a couple of material changes that we should touch on. But I mean, I was concerned about the roof pitch and the gutters, but I think that makes sense in terms of what he's described. Are there kind of other board questions on where we are with this? Okay. Valerie, I know, are there any questions that we have, any items on this that we haven't discussed as a board tonight?
No. I
Okay.
don't have anything else.
So.
Can I just ask the one question? Is the architect still here?
Oh,
Yeah, he
Yeah.
moved himself out.
he moved himself out, but he's,
Oh.
I'll bring him back.
Yeah,
I'll
bring him
bring him
in
back.
because we're still discussing the project. And I also have to open the public hearing.
The only question I had for him was, he said that you can access from the existing flat roof of the salon to that area. So is there another access point where now that you're eliminating the door from the apartment on the second floor to that roof, is there another access point that can get on the roof, which is the reason why you're proposing the guardrail, or is the guardrail really just an aesthetic look?
Guardrail is just their aesthetic. The last time I was here, it just looked very, like monolithic, and I was just trying to bring some of the residential character to the thing. There's nothing, you can't even get to that roof from any other area on the building.
Okay, so it's not necessarily for purpose of safety. It's just an aesthetic.
No, it's not.
Okay, that was the only question I had.
Yeah, Taryn.
So this is noticed very specifically.
Mhm.
They're seeking BAR approval for removal of a two-tier deck and the proposed construction of a roof structure over the existing first floor entrance.
Mhm.
We just have to make sure whatever the board is voting on reflects what this is noticed for.
Right.
So.
Really
Oh.
has the roof structure.
Yeah, but I don't know, I think, check the language on that, because I think it's different than CBA. Like, in terms of what needs to be noticed. I think it just needs to say, like,
I
a
mean, it covers
CBA.
BAR review, so that's helpful, whereas the ZBA has different requirements, but I just want to make sure that since there is somewhat of a deviation between the plan and the notice. So I'm gonna look at that really quickly.
I don't, I mean, so, I can, I think the applicant's still in here, right? Mr. Joseph, you're rebuilding the roof over the first floor, right? You're putting in a new flat roof system.
Yes,
So, I mean, I think that it's, they're removing a two-tier deck, they're constructing a new roof structure. I think that they're providing a guardrail as part of that roof structure, a decorative guardrail from what the applicant is saying, so I don't know. I mean,
And removing two access doors and replacing them with the two windows there as well. But that's
Right.
changed somewhat of the look of that facade.
right, but I think that the removal of those doors is consistent with your deck. I'm just trying to say that this is really different from what
It is
was
difficult,
noticed.
yeah, this is okay. The zoning board has different requirements, so.
Yeah, that's more.
Okay.
Okay.
Good, thank you.
Wanna make
So-
sure.
Is everyone on the board kind of comfortable with what we're looking at, the changes, how it's evolved from the last meeting? I'll just note that I know that there was one question about the stucco color on the storefront during our last review, and it was like, oh, wait,
There's like a
custom
yellow.
color.
But
Right,
they're gonna
but-
match it
but-
to that cream.
Right, and the drawings clearly, I think, state that, the revised drawing, so just putting that on record. Can I have a motion to reopen the public hearing on this application?
Michael Aronson, motion to open the public hearing.
Eric Talbot, a second.
Any objections? There are none. Is there anybody? I'll just note, there's nobody in the room, there's no attendees on Zoom right now, so there is nobody from the public here to speak. So last chance, I think we've been through it this last chance. Any last comments or concerns? See any, close the public hearing?
Motion to close. Public hearing.
Oh, there's this.
Any objections on that? Okay, I think that where we are with this, I think questions have been answered. We have a motion to approve the application.
Rich Klein, motion to approve. Bill Murray, a second.
And we'll do
Michael Aronson.
Aye.
Hi, Bill Maria.
Aye.
Victor Ganis.
Aye.
Richard Klein.
Aye.
And Chair Ward.
Aye, motion carries. So, Mr. Joseph, our approval will go to Joseph from the building department, and you obviously can't resume work until your permit is issued. That process, this is one step in that process.
thank
Right,
you.
and Mr. Joseph, as of right now, the submission that we have was for the roof, the way you were presenting it to the board previously, so you'll have to submit all the revised plans for the changes that you're approved for with this, at this meeting. Because we don't have
Will
any
do.
of the plans for this currently.
I'll revise and then send it over.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, so I guess just before and I think that was the last item on our agenda. I know there's a growing list of adjourned items. Are there any that require our attention or comment tonight?
Not at this time, because, 3 Marble is because of the incompleteness of their application, so we adjourned them on that. 171 Croton Avenue, we're still working with the applicant on that, so it's an active application that is still ongoing. 229 Spring Street, there before the ZBA.
The zoning board.
And 6163 Croton Avenue is before the ZBA. And 80 Main Street, we are working with them. They just submitted another round of engineering plans or structural plans for Keller Sessions to look at. So as soon as like that kind of gets wrapped up, we hope to get them back.
Okay.
Forward. So they're all.
I do have one question on one of the applications tonight that maybe Valerie, you may be able to give some guidance to this. On 10 Marble with the subdivision, I'm assuming that both of those homes right now on the same utilities from the village, they're probably sharing a sewer line, water service, because they're not separate lots until now to the subdivision. Are there conditions to be put to the resolution that would require them to a certain amount of time to make sure that each one of those buildings are gonna have separate utilities?
We didn't have anything, but we can add something to the resolution to just maybe something a little bit more generic, because I don't know what the rules are with the
Yeah, I
separate
haven't either.
utilities. So maybe we can add something generic, like to the extent that like, any required utility upgrades or. I don't know, I'm trying to think of.
We'll come up with something.
Yeah,
Theory when
Understanding that they probably, understanding they, they have to wait till they got approval for the subdivision, but normally they would be like, once it's assigned and agreed upon that they have whatever it is, 6 months, 12 months, and then we would make sure that they continue to do that, because I'm sure the Department of Public Works, the Water Department is gonna want them to be on separate water lines, separate meters and so forth. So I'm just seeing if there's gonna be, some type of specific time frame that we make sure that they do so.
Thanks, Joe.
yeah, I'll work with Taryn
We'll come up with some
on
language.
putting some language together.
Okay, thank you. Okay, can I have a motion, I guess, at this point then to adjourn the meeting?
Welcome to your, which way?
All right, how about a second?
Any objections? There are none. Thank you guys very much.
Just before we go, I just have a
Oh,
question.
thank you, Joe. Thanks,
Thanks,
Jamie.
Joe.
Good
Thanks,
night.
Jack.
Thank you.